Before I click record. We want to welcome you to this webinar this afternoon on the Securing Our Futures grant. My name is Sarah Bay. I'm the Education Services Coordinator here at Bluum, and we're really excited that you all joined us today. Our mission here at Bluum is to improve learning and make it more accessible for our students. And as we have learned from research, safe learning environments lead to better learning experiences. So that's why we're conducting this webinar today and here to support you through cultivating those safe learning environments. Our agenda today, we're going to walk through this welcome and some housekeeping. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to link those in the chat, and we'll have time at the very end of our webinar to hit some of those questions. Eureka will have lots of different answers, and you can feel free to pop in whatever you feel you'd need once the webinar concludes. But go ahead and pop those in as you're getting those questions, and we'll just refer back to them right at the very end. We're going to start with outlining a funding summary of this grant, and then Eureka's going to run through the application outline, some allowable costs, and then we're going to touch on Bluum's grant advisory services as a whole. Like I said, feel free to ask questions as they come up, and we will get to them at the very end. The Bluum teammates that are here and supporting today are myself, Sarah Bay. Like I said, I'm our Education Services Coordinator here at Bluum. I'm also going to pass it off a little bit later to Eureka, who joins our Education Services team at Bluum as our grants and funding specialist. Eureka comes from a background of grant making federal, state, and local COVID relief funds to high impact projects and programs. And then the remainder of the Bluum team that is supporting the state of Idaho is Adil Moladina, Suzanne Wright, and Aaron Cole. So they'd be happy to support and chat with you whenever you would like. I'm now going to pass it off to Eureka so she can get us started.
Thanks for that amazing intro, Sarah. And I'm seeing some familiar faces or familiar names in the attendees, so happy to see you here. I'm going to be going over the SOF program basics. This grant has been live for around a month now, so month and a half, so I'm sure you may be familiar with this grant or the first cycle of the grant, which started last year in the summer. There's a couple differences between the cycle 1 and cycle 2 that we'll go over today. So Securing Your Future is a competitive fund, so you will be ranked and scored on your application, and there's certain thresholds that you'll need to meet to be able to win this grant. This is from the Idaho Office of School Safety and Security, and they do require your vulnerability assessments to be completed for your most recent school year to apply for this grant. The deadline, which has changed throughout this funding session, is now March 15th, 2024, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And please note that there is a daylight savings change during this funded application period. The funding amount also is a little bit complicated because one school district can apply for one project per school site that's in your district. And then there's a 200,000 cap per project. So each school gets one project, is eligible for one project, but you will be all submitting under one application. So the school district will lead that application, and then you'll be collaborating with your schools to see where those sites, the projects will be. The entire project or the entire funding amount is $6.2 million. That's what the Office of School Safety is looking to provide through this grant. So it is quite sizable, and we hope that you really consider to dream big on your projects. Eligible costs, however, must be incurred prior to June 30th of this year, unless you receive special authorization from the school safety office. So what is in the application? the application is administered through a JOT form that's available on the Idaho school safety website. And it is quite streamlined. There's three components. However, each component has a lot of the writing sections that are embedded. But there's three important required documents that you need to know, since they will be required within the form. So the first required document is board meeting minutes that approve your scope of work with that you're applying for the grant application. So I know you may have board meetings on a quarterly or monthly basis, so please make sure that this is a component in your next board meeting if you have not gotten board approval for your scope of work. You will also be providing assurance forms per project site. So that required signatures are your district superintendent, your building principal, and a grant submission manager if if you're assigning one person to do that. So definitely something to keep in mind when filling out this form. And these are things that are really hard to get last minute. So I really want you to know this ahead of time. We also are seeing that project bids are required for each corresponding item to your budget, and our sales team is happy to provide those bids for you, so you can comply with that requirement. Now, what is the writing portion? I know this is the most painful for some of y'all to complete, but we do offer a Bluum grant guide that provides an outline for each question that you'll be answering. But in general, you'll have a statement of need. So why do you need this project? And specifically, how is it related to your vulnerability assessments that you've conducted? There's also a section for the impact on student population, project planning and design. Again, what the alignment is to the vulnerability assessment is key here. And you'll have an opportunity to attach any previous work that was completed for your school safety planning and implementation. So any recent upgrades that you've taken into consideration. And then there's also project timeline. However, with the short amount of time that you can expend this fund, I believe it's the purchase and the implementation can be further out. Scope of work and project cost, this is mostly the budget portion. And then there is a section to include your stakeholder input. So who have you engaged with internally to come up with your project? Next slide, please. One thing that I wanted to raise is there are priorities that are given to districts that are serving smaller populations and smaller school sizes. So just wanted to put that out there for consideration. All right. Allowable costs, there are 5 main categories of allowable costs, and we'd be happy to talk with you individually on your projects, but life safety systems, which is fire alarms, that's a big topic in the allowable costs, and then access control, which includes a variety of fences or lock systems, public access and visitor management, surveillance cameras, and alert systems and communication, which can range from panic buttons to PA systems. So we really want to, all projects are considered. However, these are the allowable costs, and we can help you make sure that your project is aligned with the allowable costs. So you're here today in one of our webinars, which is one of our courtesy Bluum Grant Advisory Services. As mentioned, this is a free service that we provide for educators and district administrators to make sure that as a part of our mission to improve learning and make it more accessible. We offer Bluum Grant Guides, as mentioned previously, which will help you one, type out all of your responses, your application responses in one spot, and as well as provide an outline, as well as the application review. So we can look at your application and make suggestions and comments to make your application stronger and more clear. We also provide one-on-one support through our office hours. We'd be happy to schedule a call with you. I also wanted to point out that tomorrow, the Office of School Safety is having a webinar Q&A. So 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we'll be there as well to listen in. But this is an opportunity to talk directly to the funder with your questions. Great. And just as a reminder, this grants advisory services, we provide these services free of charge and with no expectation that Bluum will receive any benefit from this grant other than through your fully competitive bid process as required by the rules and regulations. But anyways, we made it to the end, so we can stop recording and answer questions that you may have. And again, these slides will be available to you at the end.
Thanks, Eureka, and thank you all.